What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. Shad is playing hooky again, so I'm be the one piloting the show today. I know it's been quite a tumultuous day in the market with the DeepSeek news and AI, and we're seeing a lot of sell-off across the board. Obviously, cannabis was affected too, and we've got plenty of cannabis headlines today. We got some positive tax rhetoric out of New York. Joe Gruters has actually filed a bill in Florida for home grow, so hoping Ron DeSantis is now going to fall in line with that, as he was a big home grow proponent around the Amendment 3 initiatives. And this also does include some clampdowns on hemp, which we can break down later on the show. As far as guests today, we have the president and COO of LeafLink. I've been following LeafLink for some time now. Artie's actually quite accomplished, comes from WeWork, where he was co-CEO, ex-CFO of Time Warner Cable. And we'll be diving into the tech aspect of the industry, what he potentially sees as far as further consolidation, and just some data points and overall nuance into the industry. So we're going to bring him in on the top and then go through the headlines after the show. But I guess with further ado, Arns, bring up Artie, please. How's it going, sir?
Great.
Great. Thanks for having me on the show. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Definitely been following LeafLink for some time now. I know that they've been around. Don't quote me on this, but I think probably over 10 years.
We're getting close to 10 years, since Ryan and Zach founded the company. So it's been quite the journey, But right now, over the last year, we've made a few, pretty big moves on the acquisition side, and so the company has gone from really just focusing on the marketplace side of the business to we consolidated with LeafTrade. That obviously brought us to about close to $10 billion of annualized transactions on the platform. And, we also acquired Dama, which that allowed us to bring a banking platform to the industry, which, is sorely needed. So lots of good progress, and really, really pleased with the performance of the team.
So I know you joined LeafLink, I think, around 2.5 years ago, if I'm not correct.
It's getting close. It's getting close to 3 years. But I joined for the first year. I was the president and COO, and then Ryan decided he wanted to go off and found something new, and I stepped into the CEO role.
Okay. So with your background, being at WeWork, being at Time Warner Cable, what made you jump? What made you join the cannabis industry?
Yeah, it's interesting how, they sort of made their way to me. But I think the fact, if you think about cable business, it is very market by market specific. You compete locally. You have significant regulatory overlay. There's obviously a big tech aspect to it. And so weirdly, some of the experiences I had there did have some applicability to what we were looking to do at LeafLink. And then I'd obviously done, a bunch of M&A and deal making. And I think, when we looked at the industry, in most industries, what you see is like there's one or two tech companies of scale. In our industry, there were just there's an unwieldy tech stack if you are a brand or retailer you got to deal with. And so our view was, putting ourselves in our customers' shoes, is there needs to be some rationality of that technology stack that they're working through. They don't want to swivel chair between 4 or 5 different platforms. And so we have been slowly, organically, and then through M&A, consolidating the tech side of the wholesale marketplace, and then adding tools to it, to make it as fulsome experience on the wholesale side as it can be.
Yep. And a lot of what we do on the show, we really do focus on the MSOs and the Canadian LPs, and let's say the plant touching aspects of the industry. For those that don't know, with LeafLink, Dama, and LeafTrade, how would you define the business, what you guys are currently working on in the space and providing value to your customers and clients?
Sure. So if you think about the position we have, and think of us as a technology platform that brands and retailers come to transact. So, across all our different products, you probably have 7,000 retailers, over 1,500 brands who are coming and they're transacting on a monthly basis. They can manage all their orders. They can pay for their orders. We now offer banking solutions to brands and retailers. We can offer very targeted advertising products if a brand wants to reach a specific retailer. We can provide logistics technology services to the extent you need a distribution partner to get that product from point A to point B. Those providers plug themselves into our platform. So we offer everything from retailer insight tools, so retailers know when they are low in stock on a product and when they should be reordering, how they should think about pricing that product. So it really is, a classic vertical software stack that we offer to the brand and the retail side of the industry.
Okay. And how are you looking at the industry? I mean, are there any key learnings that you're looking at or that you see in the data with like best practices that have developed in, let's say, the Canadian market or things that are going on in the US market? Because we do talk a lot about price compression. We do get very fixated on what markets are doing. And I would argue that there probably is nobody better suited to have their finger on the pulse than what LeafLink is doing, especially with the amount of data that you see from a wholesale perspective in markets.
Yeah, it's very interesting that, on the data side, I would say there's a couple of themes that we tend to see when a market goes live. You'll tend to see that there is low supply. Wholesale prices in that market can be very high relative to other markets. You then know what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of supply that's going to come into that market, and you'll wind up with a bit of a supply-demand imbalance. So we are literally always sort of plotting and tracking across all the different markets where everyone is standing on sort of a supply and demand side. And that is something that we can sit with our customers and sort of said, like, look, here's where you are today. You got to prepare because we're sort of seeing what's happening, that there's too much supply coming into the market, or good news, we worked through a bunch of the oversupply issues, and this is what you should be thinking about over the next year. These are, for example, the products that we are seeing that are moving in your market. So you're thinking about the inventory mix you should be thinking about for next year. We can work with them on that. So we do have, I would say, the most robust treasure trove of data on the wholesale side.
So do a lot of, let's say, emerging markets or emerging MSOs, do they kind of back test data from other markets, let's say, to kind of forecast that maturation curve? Or do you see most markets really being animals on their own, kind of going from inception, from medical to rec, and then watching that consumer grow? Is there like a footprint that you guys have identified?
I think a few years ago, it was markets, as you sort of said, were all on their own. And I didn't feel like that there was a lot of, at the time, because people were going in, their balance sheets at the time were more robust. People were about getting market share. And I felt it was not as like, let's look at what historically has happened in other markets. I think that has changed meaningfully over the last few years.
Okay.
And I think people are much more focused on how do, they optimize their business, whether it's a retailer, and how do they optimize their footprint in their stores to maximize their profit, or brands, what can they do to sort of optimize, again, their profitability, their sell-through, how do they reach their customers in the most efficient way? I think, the lack of capital that has flowed into the industry has caused people to be, much more focused on how do they drive profitability.
Yeah. And as far as let's say consolidation goes, I mean, I know that you got the Leaf Trade acquisition under your belt. I know you have the Dama acquisition under your belt. Are there any other themes or any, let's say, bolt-on acquisitions in different aspects of the industry across the value chain as it relates to tech that you see kind of bringing into the fold?
Yeah, when we came into 24, the two acquisitions we had talked about with our board were Leaf Trade and Dama. And part of that is we really wanted to, one, what Leaf Trade had done a great job was super serving the large enterprise MSO customers in the space. And, we obviously wanted to have them as customers. And, that was a transaction that allowed us to bring those customers on, get access to their data, and begin to offer them more of our products and services that we were offering, the medium and the longer tail. And then similarly with Dama, we really saw our having a financial services suite that we could provide to our customers as solving a critical pain point. And so after those two transactions were done, you never want to say like, look, we're strategically complete, but I think it's like, all right, how are you opportunistic there? And there are things that we look at, whether it is, we have a great tech team, we build a lot of stuff internally, but we look at things like, all right, what are the, data tools that the industry is looking for, not just scraping data, but how do you get access to, the actual data? How do we best integrate with sort of the POS providers in the space? So, look, it's not going to surprise me if we do other deals in the space. Look, our customers, again, have been telling us keep going, because they're frustrated with the amount of technology providers they gotta deal with. You shouldn't run a small business and have to have 6 different technology providers doing bespoke things for you. You want one integrated solution, and that's where we see this market ultimately going. And we want to be, we on the wholesale side, we want to be the biggest tech player in the space.
Yeah, one of the pain points that I've, I guess, identified with a lot of operators that I've spoken to over the years is seed to sale. There's no congruency within markets. They can be using a different seed to sale software platform in, let's say, Missouri versus a Florida, and that lack of congruency really affects them with their overarching business information systems on the ground level. I mean, as far as fragmentation goes, this industry is the definition, I would say, of fragmentation when you look at the state-run markets, and then you also do look at the technology that's inherent in it. Do you think we're kind of at that phase in the life cycle of the industry to where you start to see congruency across the board and kind of things really ironing out as the industry hits its stride and becomes more legitimized?
Yeah, no, I do. I think, you look at other industries and sort of what happened. Again, I think there are people go in and they're sort of pioneers, and then you start to see on the supply side, which we've seen a lot of consolidation with MSOs, but you're always going to have, again, vibrant sort of new brands emerging there. I think on the retail side, again, some states have different rules of how many stores you can have, et cetera. I think that will, to the extent people can consolidate, they will, but I think it'll continue to be a fragmented market. What we view is the tech side needs to do one or two things. It needs to consolidate as best it can on the wholesale side. What we then want to be is, effectively, if you're a POS provider, like as I said to the team, like we want to be Switzerland. We want to integrate with everyone. Similar on seed to sale, like we should have integrations with everyone there. We don't have to own all of the pieces of the technology stack. There's a number of areas where we think it will be helpful to own, but in others, we're just, we want it for our customers that we have, partnerships where, the data sort of flows between us and other tech providers. What has historically happened is there was not the free flowing, there were not integrations, and as a result, folks, our customers, were forced to swivel chair between a number of different systems that weren't talking to one another.
Yep. And then on the banking side, we talk a lot on this show about federal reform. In the last week, we've seen a potential bipartisan congressional banking bill, let's say not being imminent, but getting introduced down the road. Tim Scott on February 5th has alluded to a debanking hearing being held. Granted, the emphasis was on legal businesses. And as we all know, unfortunately, a lot of the plant, or not a lot of the plant touching businesses are not legal on the federal level, they're legal on the state level. Are there any insights or any way, how are you looking at the overarching potential banking reform and the financial aspect of the industry, especially as it relates to the business with Dama?
Yeah, look, the reason we were to be clear, like Dama is not a bank. Dama is basically partners with banking institutions who work in states where, again, cannabis is legal, and what we do is we handle all of the compliance, we handle the front end of onboarding, we handle the marketing aspects, and we give the opportunity for our customers to have a banking relationship, with us. And now what we're trying to do is work with some third party financing to also offer to those customers not only the ability to have a bank account, but also, for example, a line of credit. One of the things that's really hard in this industry is managing your working capital. And so we're trying to, for customers to come on the platform, have the ability for them, they can get a bank account, they can get a working credit line. We have introduced a product we call Post, pay on sell through, which again, for a brand, they basically know when the product sells through that they will get paid. From a brand perspective, it takes out the risk of non-payment. As they don't have to wait for the end of an invoice, they'll be getting funds as their product sells through. And for a retailer, it allows them to tie up less dollars in working capital. So it really is a win-win for both sides. And that's why, again, when you think about, the successful vertical software companies, what they've done is, and what we're looking to do is to embed really robust, financial services suite of products to their customers that allow them, to solve whatever issue it is on the financing, whether it's working capital, whether it's banking, whether it's collections, whether it's payments. We have, a full robust suite of services for those who are looking for them.
What are the two of the major themes? Right, it's the two disciplines that I'd say I pay most attention to outside of cannabis are both crypto and AI. Both of them, I've seen some applications potentially in the cannabis space around tokenization, as well as around AI being laid over a lot of the tech stack that some cannabis companies are utilizing. Are there any facets to any of the businesses or anything that you're exploring right now as it relates to crypto and AI and how it can be implemented into the cannabis vertical?
Where we're spending a lot of time right now, I would say, is on the machine learning side and really ingesting all of the data we have and how we can think about how that helps either retail insights as to when they should be ordering it, how much they should be ordering it, how they should be pricing it, what's moving, in their neighborhood. So it really takes the opinion, out of it, where a lot of people, they got a purchasing team who those folks are doing a great job, but a lot of times they're not doing with the data. We can sort of show them this is what works, this is what doesn't work. On the AI side, I do think there's a lot of ability for us on the customer service side to improve there. And so that's something we're taking a look at. As far as, on the how do you embed crypto for us, on the B2B side, as we think about payments, we don't come across that as much as you may on like the B2C side, where the payments issues from a customer standpoint, the POS providers, they can't take a credit card. They have lots of different challenges they're dealing with. It doesn't happen as much on the B2B side.
Yes, as far as crypto, I mean, I've always kind of been in the school of thought like tokenization and creating an actual data point for provenance makes sense on the wholesale side, especially on the cultivation side, where you can track that plant through all the way through, especially when you hear about certain things going on in California with distro and with cultivation, to be able to truly track and put that layer on top of the entire industry is something that I've always thought might be worth exploring. That, or let's say like an AI bud tender, because we're getting knocks actually now from Sam. A lot of their talking points are, well, you're saying it's medical, you're going to a dispensary and you're listening to a 18 to 21-year-old unqualified person that you potentially that you're insinuating and implying you're looking for medical advice. That can't be further from the truth. It's like, well, if you want to create a chatbot or an AI bud tender that understands everything that's loaded in that dispensary, can get some data points on the consumer, you're going to kind of alleviate the rub.
I think there's to your point, I think there's a pretty massive opportunity there.
Yeah. And then I guess as it relates to the industry as a whole, I mean, it's kind of the elephant in the room right now. Like, we're waiting on reform as it relates to the financial health of a lot of the plant touching businesses. How are you looking at 2025, let's say thematically, as far as the industry goes? Do you think it's a year of we actually start to get some regulatory change? Do you think it's a year of not a lot of spending, let's say in CapEx of the plant touching businesses, and it's kind of like the status quo? I mean, how are you looking at the industry as a whole?
Look, we are cautiously optimistic with the the new administration coming in. I think what we're hoping for is really a lot of common sense solutions that the industry has been looking for, whether it is safe banking, whether it is rescheduling. Are those the top priorities of the administration? Probably not. They got a lot on their plate. But I think that there has been an expression of an interest in getting some of these things done. I don't know if the timetable will be these things get solved this year. These rescheduling processes, they take a minute. Safe banking has taken a while, and I don't think it's on the top of anyone's list, but I think it is something from a sort of a common sense perspective. You say, like, these folks should be able to be banked, and so I'm hopeful that once the administration turns their attention to it, that there can be some good outcomes here for the industry. Working in this industry for our customers, it's hard. They had a lot of things in addition to being entrepreneurs that they have to deal with. And as I say to people, like, look, we're a technology startup. All our customers are startup. A lot of the regulators, they're startups as well, sort of figuring all this out. And it's created a lot of challenges. But I am, as I said, hopeful that this new administration is going to focus on getting some of these things done that I think they all agree makes sense to be resolved for the industry.
Yeah, I mean, I think the main theme is going to be common sense, or at least I hope it's common sense. And the mechanisms are already there. The rescheduling, the HHS report has been done. The OLC memo has been done. Safe banking's there. It's kind of like just coming down from the top and being like, guys, time to get this done, right the wrongs, legitimize the industry, and just stop talking about cannabis. Let's focus on things that actually are threats to public safety and the overall, general well-being of Americans. But I guess in closing, and there's been a couple of comments in the chat, I think I know the answer to this, but do you have any plans to go public anytime soon? Or are you happy being a private company in terms of governance and overall headaches?
Yeah, look, we for right now we have no plans. We're really focused on just like executing against our plan. We got great investors. We raised, in a very tough market to raise in cannabis, we raised $125 million. that has given us a lot of flexibility to invest when others haven't, frankly, had the ability in the industry to do so. So, we can execute our plan in the private markets, and we'll continue to just continue to focus on performance.
Yeah, I don't blame you. From an operator perspective, being private is it's a very nice thing compared to being public. Well, I mean, Artie, this has been great. Thank you very much for your time. This has been quite informative, and I definitely hope to have you on in the future. Hopefully, we can discuss a couple other acquisitions or some hopefully really good news in the market.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for your time.
All right, take care. Bye.
Talk soon. That was good. I mean, oh, hey, Shad.
What's up?
You decided to join us?
Yeah. Got home 20 minutes ago. How are you, my friend? Good interview.
Good.
Everything good? That was a good interview.
Yeah.
So they plan. I saw the tail end of that. They plan to go public or not public?
No. Plan to stay private. They have a strong balance sheet. They have a strong management team. I mean, obviously, we like talking about publicly traded companies. A lot of the go public excitement was around the industry, but knowing what I know about running businesses, being private's nice. Compared to the corporate governance headaches and the costs associated with being a publicly traded company.
Yeah. Antonio, good to see you. What's cracking? All the guys at the
also
CSE, the Canadian Securities Exchange, they say hi, Anthony. I was down there this morning in downtown Toronto. They made the trek 4 hours west. I had to go pick up this state-of-the-art studio desk. I spent a lot of money on it, and I used it once. Then COVID hit. So it's been a hell of a whirlwind day. But I drove a U-Haul truck 4 hours, and it's currently in my driveway. So here I am, and I just wanted to chime in. So how's things? Good? Good weekend?
Good. By the way, Chris Brady, I saw that you tweeted at me twice over the weekend, and you had comments about what I had said about Georgia. You're not going to find anything publicly. Luckily, I get to speak with some privileged people. One that happens to be involved in the process in Georgia. So I would kind of take what I said at face value. You'll see things develop here later in the year. And I'm sure things will come public sooner or later. So you're not going to really be able to find too much of that information online.
Yeah. Twitter was alive and well with this banking hearing scheduled for February 5th. We'll get into that in a moment because I know a lot of people are hoping that cannabis is brought up, but I think the press release clearly stated that they're going to focus on legal businesses. So I wouldn't hold your breath that cannabis is going to get brought up. And I'm sure you'll probably agree with that, Anthony, but let's jump into it. Banking is not imminent is what you wrote down for headline number one, where a banking bill is expected to be introduced into the 119th Congress. But according to Ohio Congressman Dave Joyce, says is not imminent. What else is new? So what are the next steps? Knowing that they're probably going to be cautious towards all this. Should we read much into this? Like, what was your take on this announcement?
Well, it's good that David Joyce is talking about cannabis banking. It's good that he's alluding to a bipartisan effort being brought to the House floor. That being said, I mean, I think it's all eyes on 2-5. Looking into that meeting on debanking, looking at to see if cannabis gets brought up or if there's any questions. Like you'd alluded to, I'm not really holding my breath, especially as it relates to the semantics around legal businesses in the United States, as cannabis, as much as we all want to not admit it. I mean, on the federal level, these businesses are illegal. They're legal on the state level. That being said, he didn't say federally legal businesses. This is a federal matter, but if you want to kind of leave a $30 billion industry that employs 500,000 Americans out in the cold, that's on you. I mean, I think cannabis should be part of the conversation. Cannabis should be part of the conversation as it relates to debanking. You have Jamie Dimon saying that he would bank cannabis business if he was allowed to.
Right.
As well as Donald Trump saying that cannabis businesses should be and have the access to financial institutions and banks. So here's Gretchen again. He's going to leave us out in the cold. Thank you for being the consummate optimist. Par for the course. She popped up as soon as we started talking about Tim Scott.
Yeah.
But yeah, am I expecting it? No. Should we be? Absolutely. We'll see on 2-5.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes to show he's a conservative. I get it. I would be very surprised if Tim Scott does bring up anything related to cannabis. I had some people reach out to me and say, we need something about this right away. But I don't. I think, like I've said before, if there's anything that's going to happen first, it's rescheduling. And there should be, some developments, hopefully relatively soon pertaining to that. Love to see, obviously, an outline as to how it would work if they went to a straight ruling versus going through this ALJ hearing. But We'll see what happens. I don't really know what the next steps are going to be, but what I keep hearing over and over and over, I don't know how much you want to read into this, but it's less about his appointees and more or less about what Donald Trump and the common sense thing that Charlie said last week in the interview with us. And that common sense thing is just like looking at the state of the industry right now. One can only hope that's the case with Donald Trump and see what he does when it comes to rescheduling. But at the end of the day, you know, to get anything across the line, like I know there's a lot of money that's being raised behind the scenes. They're going to have to allocate some money towards the Senate because you need Congress's help. And there's still a lot of conservative Republicans, even though they're in complete control right now, that are still apprehensive about this industry. But for anyone thinking that safe banking is going to get brought up in this hearing, I would not hold your breath. That's my take.
Well, no, it's not even safe banking. It's just the industry. I mean, it's
true.
I mean,
good point. Good point.
It's simply the industry. Safe banking is not going to be brought up in this hearing. This hearing is to address the debanking issue as it relates to Operation Choke Point 1, okay, Operation Choke Point 2, and American industries that are consistently being debanked. Cannabis, aside from crypto, is the largest industry in the United States that is consistently being debanked.
Okay. Well, do you not think, as I said last week, in order for anything to move like this is not a standalone? I know we touched about it. It's got to latch on to crypto.
Let's see what David Joyce has up his sleeve with a bipartisan bill to introduce on the House floor. It's gonna have to take it in stride. I mean, Senator Lummis was taking pictures with, I think, Future and Snoop Dogg at the inauguration. Yeah. Granted, I know Snoop Dogg has some decent exposure to crypto. He's also obviously a large cannabis advocate. Maybe her tune's changed, but I think attaching it to crypto is our path of least resistance.
Yeah.
Will it happen? Yet to be determined.
Do you think, knowing the op-ed that was done last week with Weldon and Mike Tyson, do you think Snoop starts to put his hat in the ring and become more vocal with this, or think he completely stays away?
You know who we need? You know who would get Trump's ear, and you know who would bring all of these people around? Martha Stewart.
Ooh.
That's who we need. We don't need Snoop Dogg. We need Martha. You need Martha to come out and basically be like, guys, lay it out completely.
Good point.
This is what's wrong. This is what they're dealing with. This is what needs to happen, and just put Martha as the face of the movement, because kind of out of ideas at this point.
You know who'd be in agreement with you on that one? Bruce Linton.
Bruce Linton? Yeah.
We need to call up Bruce, have him back on the podcast again. It's been a while. He's a good guy, good friend. We always run into him at the weirdest places, but you never miss a beat with that guy. Like, you pick up right where you left off. But some of the stuff that's, Mitch, I hear you. I'd love to have Martha on the podcast. I don't know if I said this a couple of weeks ago, if anyone got a chance to see that Netflix documentary, but she is cutthroat, man. But you got to be cutthroat if you're a billionaire. Nice guys finish last, I think, when you're a billionaire, but that's just the reality. Let's now shift to New York, and another important information where the legal cannabis market is generating a lot of tax revenue. When I say a lot, I mean a lot. So how much, Anthony? And is this a little bit more than what the state was anticipating?
Yeah, the state's expecting to generate 161.8 million this fiscal year, 4 times last year's 43.3 million. And Governor Hochul's recent budget projection anticipates 248 million for the next year, as well as 374 million by 2029. New York's growing. What they're doing is working. It's a travesty that we all think of New York and kind of have PTSD about what happened. With the rollout, there was a lot of capital that was wasted in that state by a lot of the MSOs. There's still an onerous fee attached with converting your medical dispensary to a recreational dispensary, but they're generating tax revenue. If they're generating tax revenue, it means they're selling cannabis product. If they're selling more cannabis product, that means they're closing down more illegal dispensaries. That means that the initiatives that they've got are working. It's great to see. Wish it would have been done from the get-go. Wish it would have been done much earlier. But it is what it is. You live and you learn. And I mean, New York's really getting its shit together when it comes to maturing as an industry.
What did it finish off for 2024? Was it just over $1 billion in sales?
I think just over 1.2 billion was the number. It was like 1.16 or something.
Anyone have the number on what they're forecasted to do here in 2025? Will they hit 2?
Well, let's do the math. If it does 1.2 for this fiscal year at $160 million in taxes, if it's jumping $80 million, which is roughly 10. It jumped about 50%. It should probably track for about somewhere between 1.9 and 2.1 billion, if I had to guess back in napkin math.
That's welcome news when you think about where we were 18 months ago, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, another big headline today, which we need to actually reach out to him to have him on, was Joe Gruder's bill that he introduced. Doug Cass actually just emailed me, said he might be able to get Martha. So I'll be calling him after the podcast.
I saw
if you're
that.
watching Doug, I'll reach out.
Please, Doug.
As far as, by the way, Florida, Doug Gruder's, he introduced a bill to allow home grow within the state, 2 plants per person, as well as curb hemp products. It would take out Delta 8, Delta 10, THCP, HHC, all the bullshit synthetic cannabinoids that we're seeing, as well as THCA flower, which I think that's probably going to be the rub, as I don't think they're going to vote to completely eliminate THCA flower. It's good to try, though. And they want to put a 2 milligram cap on intoxicating hemp products that are Delta 9 derived. I don't agree with that. I think if you really want to allow the products, put like a 10 milligram cap on it, allow for 10 milligram products, 5 milligram products, and 2 milligram products as well. I think a 2 milligram cap is just going to be too onerous as it relates to intoxicating hemp products. If you're going to let them be, let them be. If you want them gone, do away with them completely.
So how should people read into this then? No, is this an overall good thing? You know, we're seeing more and more tweaks from the Yes on 3 Smart and Safe campaign. Like, are we starting to massage, I guess, what was originally put in place to hopefully have a positive outcome? And I know it seems like a long ways away, but in 2026, when this is brought up again, like, how should people interpret this?
So I think this is allowing cover fire for the refiling of Amendment 3 and running into 2026.
Yeah.
I'm going to guarantee everybody right now that the morons that were hung up on home grow on the initial run of Amendment 3 are going to come and say, well, 2 plants is not enough. We want 5. We want 7. Why don't we have 9, which I'm pretty sure is the law in Colorado as it relates to home grow. They're not going to be happy enough, and or they're going to say something about it. But I think it's a good start. I think it shows that the biggest ally in the Florida Republican Party is filing a bill for home grow. You've been heard. There are arrangements being made to pacify your concerns, but I do have a feeling with the 2 plant allotment, obviously the naysayers are going to come to the table and say that it's not enough.
You know, we don't talk about enough is comparing it to other states. Like, what are some of the home grow I guess, programs in other states like Canada? I know when they federally legalized it was 4 plants per home. Do we know, like, with some other states that have passed adult use, what some of the home grow looks like? Is that an issue?
No, I have no idea, with the exception of Colorado.
What's Colorado? Do you know?
9 plants. 9 plants.
Sorry, I missed
that per person.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
All right. Quick jump in just to see how you're doing. Look at some of these questions, what's going on right now. Matt Gaetz' interview on Club Random gave me a newfound respect for the former congressman. Was that I didn't see that interview. Did you?
Yeah, it was with Bill Maher. It was interesting.
What did he talk about?
Everything. If you're a Matt Gaetz fan, you should watch it.
Cannabis was brought up?
A lot of things were brought up. I've got Matt Gaetz is Matt Gaetz.
Yeah. It's Monday. You know who I wouldn't want to be today is Josh Allen. I feel sorry for those Bills. Another loss. But a rematch from 2 years ago. All right. We got some interesting guests coming on later this week. You want to maybe tee up what we got scheduled for Friday yet? Or is that still...
Oh, yeah. We have the new president of AIR coming on Friday to talk about his ascension to the role of president, as well as what 2025 should look like for AIR. Got a lot of questions. I know that there are some concerns in the market as it relates to the company. I know there's a lot of things to like in the market as it relates to the company, but we'll have him on Friday to talk about his current appointment, as well as, like I said, what the rest of 2025 looks like for AIR Wellness.
Yep. You and I also have a call with Bo Whitney from Whitney Economics later this week. So anytime that we go to any of these cannabis events, he's always on a lot of these panels. He's built quite the platform when it comes to a lot of the analytics, information, and trends to look forward to in the industry. So if there's anything that you want to learn more of, let us know. We'll ask those questions with Bo, and then we're going to hopefully have him set up for an interview next week to come on our live stream to talk about some of the things. But I did highlight Aurora. They've got their earnings coming out. Is it next week, correct? And then GTI is not until the end of February. I think the 26th, if I remember correctly. But
24th.
24th,
I'm pretty sure it's 24th on GTI.
Okay. I'm sure a lot more dates are going to be announced in the next couple of days. But yeah, you're right, Gretchen. Bo knows pot. Yes, he does. All right, good stuff. Sorry to interrupt your podcast here today, but good job. But I wanted to jump in, say hi, and make sure to scan that QR code, everybody, as I always say, to the Baked In newsletter delivered to your inbox each day, weekdays, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern time. And if you have time, make sure to give this video a like, leave some comments. We'll get back to you as quickly as possible. RFK coming up this week. Buckle up.
So apparently he has the votes to pass.
He does.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Apparently he does have the votes to pass. And I know that there was an article. It was actually the first thing I saw this morning. His proposal for wellness farms that are for people that are addicted to opioids, that are generated by the tax revenue that could be generated from illegal cannabis industry. Very, very pie in the sky thinking.
Yeah.
It implies that he would need to get cannabis descheduled / legalized first. But fact of the matter is he's talking about it. And I really do believe that the best thing the cannabis industry has going for it is the data and analytics around harm reduction and public safety as it relates to opioids, fentanyl, and the war on drugs at large. Okay. I think that's really what's going to resonate the most.
Gretchen, you hearing that? Does he have the votes? Where did you hear that, Anthony?
I think it was Politico or The Hill. One of the Twitter accounts posted it earlier.
Well,
I just made it up, actually.
Any news on Indiana? I can't give you any insight. Is now the time to invest in marijuana? Not giving any investment advice. Too many unknowns right now. All we can do right now is cover the space as much as we can from what we're hearing from thought leaders. But you know, as a couple of my evergreen videos last week outlined, let's hope Donald Trump is a man of his word. Go ahead.
I said that this morning. Gretchen's correct. Hegseth was the heavy lift. If Hegseth got through, I think anybody's getting through. Granted, RFK is potentially running the HHS. Hegseth is running the DOD, for God's sakes. If he got through, I don't think anyone's getting stopped.
Yeah. David Benz writes, is AA supported by alcohol taxes? No, it's not. It's a good point. Nobody bothers to grow their own now.
Is that a certainty?
AA is not supported. I can tell you that right now by alcohol taxes. That's all I'm going to say on that note. All right. Nobody bothers to grow their own now. They can get good weed by the joint. People got to live through it.
I think that's true. And I think that's why I've said adamantly that I think the people that sit there and want to cut off their nose to spite their face and poo-poo things like Amendment 3 in the name of home grow are full of shit. I'll grow at my house as an experiment.
Yeah.
But am I going to grow better than the flowery? Am I going to grow better than sunburn?
Right.
No, definitely not.
People want choice, right? And they can have the choice, but in due time, like I've seen in a lot of places, as the legal market becomes more normalized, sophisticated, and better at what they do, the home grow is, like I've said, it's a stretch. But sometimes some people just want the choice. They got to live through it. But in due time, I don't think this will be an issue whatsoever in Florida.
No, that's what I said. We got to get Joe on to talk about the rhyme and reason behind the bill and how it's going to progress through the Florida legislature moving forward, because I'm very curious to hear DeSantis's comments on it. I think DeSantis will comment on it.
Yeah. AA is actually self-supporting by the members itself, and no one person can allocate more dollars than another person. That's what makes it even keel. And actually, for people that follow it, God bless people that are part of AA. If it works for them, then great. But no, it does not get supported by alcohol taxes.
Well, so the reason why I thought that is because Gamblers Anonymous, I think, is supported by the gaming industry.
Is it really?
From revenue generated, yeah. I mean, all the PSAs are sponsored by if you read the fine print, most of the PSAs are sponsored by the companies that are actually the casinos.
Yeah. Shad, it should. Yeah, maybe so, David Benz. You're right. I can't believe the gaming industry, though. I had some friends over the holidays, and their 14-year-old son was coming over playing the sports betting app. It was just fake money. But I'm like 14 years old, and this is what these people are learning already in sports. I'm like, that's wild.
Sports betting. I think the sports betting industry in the next 5 years retracts.
You do?
Instead of
I do too.
Everyone's sports betting. It's ridiculous, and it's a sucker's game.
I know.
You know why it's a huge industry? Because the house always wins. DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, these institutions wouldn't exist if people made money off of it all the time.
Yeah,
it's the only vice that I completely against, and I don't really partake in. At all. And I think it's completely predatory, because you've got people now on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube that say, "Oh, I'm making a business out of sports betting. We're going to bet on sports like we trade stocks." And I think those people are insane and downright irresponsible.
Insane.
Yeah.
Province of Ontario, I think outside of like Nevada, it's right there with New Jersey. It's got 14 million people. And I was down at an event in downtown Toronto. Actually, you were with me when we did the Canna Cabana tour last June with High Tide. But there was that gaming event that was going on. We went and watched the Panthers Stanley Cup game, and ran into some old friends, because at one time here at TDR, you actually check out some of her old videos. We're talking about the business side of sports betting. It's going back, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, but that industry folded in a hurry. We thought potentially it could be the next cannabis run with all these companies going public, but that was not the case. But some of the numbers that they were saying, it actually doubled what they expected in the first full year. But I think that's just crazy when you think about.
It's gotten accessible. It's gotten too accessible. I can go on an app with a credit card, double click my Apple Pay, put money into an account, and just start gambling.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's insane. But this is why we go back to cannabis. And I think the first step is give me Schedule 3, and then that green lights proper research. Who knows what happens and comes out of that? But let's face it, some of the people that we've sat down and talked to, including Aras from Avicanna, there's reasons why some of the most sophisticated, institutions are working with them in Canada. And those are institutions that are world renowned. So there's benefits, obviously, to medical cannabis. And if there's already showing benefits in certain countries, let's at least, we're not asking for the world here. It's just get us a rescheduling effort into Schedule 3. And then from there, it's, maybe guys like Tim Scott will start to look at this from a different light. That's the first step. And I always will say that. Anyway, how was your weekend? You had a good weekend?
Weekend was good. Went on a boat yesterday in Miami.
I saw that.
Around the Keys and stuff, or the Bay around Miami, then watched the playoff games. But I have a cold right now, so I'm not really in the best mood. I've got a head cold right now. I got from my wife.
How long is it? You ever taken a boat ride from where you're at down to the Keys?
Down to the Keys? No. Taking one to Bimini. Bimini, it took about 45 minutes.
So the furthest point, Key West, how long would it take from Lauderdale to Key West if you went boating?
A couple hours.
Does it get deep, the ocean in there? Is it pretty shallow?
Florida's, there's a shelf right off the coast.
Is there
you go a mile off the Fort Lauderdale beach and it just drops.
That's wild.
Yeah. Unlike the Gulf. The Gulf, you can go for 20 miles and it's just relatively, you got to go like 30 miles offshore on the Gulf to go like fishing. Here you go a mile off and the shelf just drops. And you're
so if you go a mile, like, are you talking like 1,000 feet or even deeper?
I don't think it's 1,000 feet. It gets that deep, but I mean, yeah, literally that just drops right off.
Couldn't believe all the man of wars that was on that beach. When I walked down there between Christmas and New Year, they said, "Get the heads up." And then sure enough, there was one, there was two, and then there was like 6.
So you know how you neutralize a man of war sting?
I've heard this. Peeing?
You pee on it.
That's what I've heard.
You will never beg for someone to pee on you unless you get bit by a man of war.
I'm showing my age with it.
It's excruciatingly painful.
Have you been bit before?
Oh yeah. Skimboarding at the beach. I got tagged by one once, and it was the most painful thing. One of those painful things I've ever experienced.
Yeah. Fred Grand's
Christopher Brady's now triggered.
Does your McLaren gear fit, Shad? Yeah. You should have seen the legendary vehicle I was in today. Oh, man. But yeah, I'm going to somehow, some way, how do I incorporate this studio desk into my podcast? I don't know. No one can really see my desk now. So what's the point? Maybe I just create a second studio and just do evergreen videos from there. But everybody told me when I first started, why are you investing so much money in a studio desk? But times have changed, and COVID changed that in a hurry. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, my friend, good stuff today. And everybody, thanks for logging on. And we'll stop rambling here, and we'll see you all back here on Wednesday at 4:00. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. See you, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Stay connected here. The latest Traded Black podcast. Another great episode under the belt. What'd y'all think? Do you like what we had to say? Please leave any comments below. And as usual, make sure to subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. Check us out on Apple and Spotify. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to smash that like button, leave some comments, as I said before, and subscribe to our channel because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everybody, for watching.